This is just really a short reflection on the past week. On Friday evening, we decided that we would have fish and chips. So that's how I found myself standing in darkness as part of a strangely silent queue of about 30 people. It was going to be a long wait. It began to drizzle. I only have 3 apps on my phone, one of which is Common Worship. I found evening prayer and began to read it to pass the time. The light rain was making little rainbow lights on my phone screen. The New Testament reading was Matthew's version of the stilling of the storm on the Sea of Galilee. And the words of the story took me from that damp November evening to that same sea, not stormy this time, but calm and still in the heat of an August morning. The Sea of Galilee is notoriously unpredictable, a place where storms can blow up out of nothing and take those sailing on its waters completely unawares. The past week has been, I suppose, a little bit like the Sea of Galilee, unpredictable. A week of waves, highs and lows, not mine, but rather those of others, people that I've met. And the news across the country and the world has also been at times as stormy as any sea. In Galilee on that warm August Wednesday morning, we left our small boat to have lunch in a restaurant on the shores of the lake. We sat at long tables and were served with what most people came to eat, or come to eat in that place, the famous Peter fish, served from the waters which Jesus walked across and calmed so long ago, and served with a large bitter wedge of lemon. Sat at the same table with the 4 of us were 2 absolutely complete strangers. We began to talk together and to discover that they were doctors from Birmingham, who many years ago had worked at Wigan Infirmary and had lived actually in Clifton Crescent, one of those strange coincidences which seem to happen all too often. I only really began to remember these things as I turned the corner into the light of the shop window and took my turn at the counter to order fish, this time with chips. We didn't have chips on the Sea of Galilee. I can't remember actually what we had, but I do know that there was beer or wine to drink, and there usually was on that trip. It's funny how things suddenly come back to you. A dark, rainy evening, a bright, hot morning, fish and chips, fish and lemon, a story of a stormy sea restored to calm, the present and the past brought together from evening prayer, and from a story read in the dark, in a silent line of people lost in their own thoughts, some looking at phones, with only a very, very occasional voice to break the silence. Strange. That half hour brought some calm for me, as I guess it would have done for the others in that patient queue. Normally, I wouldn't have stayed. I would have turned and walked away. For some reason, I didn't. I stayed, and I was glad that I had. I never thought when I awoke on Friday morning that I would, before the end of the day, albeit for a short while, be transported to another place and time, as I stood in light rain and in darkness, with people in front of me and people behind me, whose faces I could not see, a high brick wall to my left, and a rather flooded, muddy car park to my right. And in that place, just for a short time, to find a sea of calm. You do and can find things in the most unexpected of places and at the most unexpected of times, often when you most need them. Then he got into the boat and his disciples followed him. Without warning, a furious storm came up on the lake, so that the waves swept over the boat. Jesus was sleeping. The disciples woke him, saying, "Lord, save us, we're going to drown." He replied, "You of little faith, why are you so afraid?" Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm.